I'm joined now by Aurel Braun in Toronto. He's a professor of international relations and political science at the University of Toronto. He's also an associate at Harvard University's Davis Center. Professor, welcome to our program. What exactly are the realistic expectations of this NATO summit?
It is going to be a difficult meeting, but NATO is moving in the right direction. President Trump has been prodding NATO very, very hard, the European members, that they need to spend more. United States spends about 3.6% of the GDP on defense, whereas Germany spends only 1.24%. And the Americans have said the defense of Europe cannot be more important to the United States than it is to the Europeans themselves. So there's a movement in the right direction. The question is it going to be fast enough? There was this agreement that the Europeans would abide by a guideline to spend 2% of the GDP by 2024. Now, 16 countries are going to make it, but countries like Germany, Netherlands, Italy are not on track to do that, and this is where there's going to be quite a bit of controversy.
I want to get your reaction to what President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, had to say. He said, "Dear America, I appreciate your allies. After all, you don't have all that many." Does Donald Tusk have a point here, and does Donald Trump really understand and appreciate the importance and value of this 70-year alliance with NATO?
I think there is certainly an understanding in the United States, especially as far as the advisors of Mr. Trump are concerned, that the alliance is very important. And Mr. Trump has said that those countries that pay up will have the protection of the United States. And you will notice how in the case of the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, they are already meeting the 2% mark. Now, Mr. Tusk is understandably upset at the rhetoric that Mr. Trump is using. It is provocative, at times it is vulgar. But the geopolitical reality is the following. United States is a superpower. The EU depends on the United States for its defense.
But does the United States, Professor, does the United States, under the presidency of Donald Trump, still have that kind of presence on a world stage?
Well, United States economy is doing very well. Militarily, United States has been making great strides. The defense budget of the United States has increased to $700 billion this year, to $716 billion next year. It is a superpower, and I think that we have to separate the rhetoric from policy. And the policy has been that in many ways, the United States has managed to push the Europeans to move in its direction, even though they have done so kicking and screaming.
If you're a European ally and you are watching Donald Trump's summit in Helsinki with Vladimir Putin in just a few days from now, what will you be looking for, and what will be your biggest concern?
The Europeans really want to make certain that Mr. Trump is not giving up on Europe, that there won't be side deals where, let's say, United States will diminish its presence in Europe, that there will be concessions to Mr. Putin that will endanger the security of the European states. And I think this is a very valid concern. I doubt that Mr. Trump is going to do this. In fact, I suspect that he was using the threat of possible concessions to Mr. Putin as a way of using leverage over the Europeans, where there are disputes both over defense expenditures as well as over trade matters. But again, I would suggest that we need to separate the rhetoric from policy. Mr. Trump has used soft rhetoric, but a very hard policy towards Russia, whereas the Obama administration was using hard rhetoric and a very soft policy. I mean, look at it from the perspective of Russia. A NATO that is increasing expenditures is not good for Russia.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Professor Aurel Braun.